Welcome in episode 24 of Reimer on the Road. That is Ann. I am Scott. Thanks for following along with us as we continue our journey and seeing America and all that it offers. We are currently in Utah, which we'll be getting to in episode 25, but we are going to share Rocky Mountain National Park here in episode 24. But before we do all that, Ann, where are we headed next so that people can give us some feedback?
We are heading to Twin Falls, Idaho.
Idaho. So
going north.
Another state, going north's the key. If you're kind of watching us and you're thinking, where are they going next? I think if you go Utah, Idaho, you could try to pinpoint where the next stop will be, but you'll have to wait until the next episode to learn all of that. We had a special guest in Rocky Mountain National Park, which we're looking forward to sharing that with you. So drop all of your comments about Idaho and what to do on Reimer on the Road on Instagram. You can comment right here on our YouTube channel or, of course, on Facebook. However you want to do it. Email Reimer on the Road as well. That's another way of doing it. So let's get right to it. It's Rocky Mountain National Park, special guest. Here we go. Less than a week after having Megan with us in Grand Teton National Park, we welcomed her back with us, this time picking her up at Denver International Airport. On our way back to Estes Park with Megan, we stopped at the Red Rocks Amphitheatre, famous for its concerts throughout the years. We also made a quick trip to Lookout Mountain, which overlooks Golden, Colorado, and is home to Buffalo Bill's Museum and gravesite. Enjoyed lunch in Golden, Colorado, which is the home of the Coors Brewery.
For our hike in Rocky Mountain National Park, we decided to go up to Bear Lake. And in order to get to Bear Lake, you have to go up Bear Lake Road. And to get up Bear Lake Road in Rocky Mountain National Park, you have to have a timed entry. And it's not just a timed entry. One, you have to have a timed entry to get into Rocky Mountain National Park between 9 and 2. But you have to have an additional or a separate, there's Rocky Mountain National Park entry, and then there's Rocky Mountain National Park plus Bear Lake. And so in order to access this hike, you have to have the pass for Rocky Mountain National Park plus Bear Lake. And they're highly sought after, so plan ahead. But we did the Bear Lake Trail, and it went up to, actually, when you get up there, Bear Lake is right there. It's ADA accessible, easy to get to, beautiful views. And then you can go on the hike. And I think it's the Emerald Lake hike. And in taking the Emerald Lake hike, you pass Nymph Lake and Dream Lake on the way. So, and there was another way you could have gone to, even an additional lake, but you kind of backtrack a little bit and you can go up another fork. And we decided not to do that because, it ended up taking us, it was a few hours, and steady, uphill climb, but beautiful. It was totally worth it. With the fall colors, you were seeing some of the trees change. So it's a great time of year. I think we kind of stumbled upon that and hitting it during the fall leaf change colors time. And it was beautiful. It's totally worth the hike if you can get access to Bear Lake.
You mentioned the elevation change. It was a good little pop. Now, I'm kind of torn between circle, loop hikes and back and forth hikes. You're seeing some of the same scenery if you do a back and forth hike, but the good part about that is you can go as far as you want and then just stop and turn around and come back. Yeah. But it was a pretty good little pop up to our destination. It went
all the way up to Emerald Lake, which really, I don't think you can go beyond Emerald Lake. But I think what I liked about it is that, yes, you're seeing certain things, but you're not, constantly turning around when you're walking. So even though you're passing the same things, you're getting it from a different perspective. So it was still, I think, a very worthwhile. I think this was one that Megan had picked out and decided that she wanted us to go for. And it was worth
it. Very cold, and we'll try it. Well, I believe her. Ooh. Ouch. Biting cold. You were right.
we did the Scenic Drive in Rocky Mountain National Park, which is Trail Ridge Road. And we went all the way up to the Alpine Visitor Center, which is up in the tundra. I think it's over, 11,000, 12,000 feet. It's way up there. I think at one point we saw a marker that said we were 2 miles above sea level, and we kept going up a little bit further above that. So, another typical national park scenic drive, totally worth doing. You've got the pullovers, the pullouts, the beautiful views, and of course we hit it during fall, so you also had the beautiful colors. We saw animals. I think it was mainly what we saw were elk and deer. Spectacular views. And then we got the bonus that some winter weather came in one day, and so then we got to see some snow, which was a beautiful contrast with the fall colors and the snow, especially once you got into the upper elevations. So I think we hit it at a perfect time. But of course, reminder, with Rocky Mountain National Park, you've got to have those timed entries between 9 and 2. Now, if you don't get one of the timed entries, it's not it's not an end of the world, because you just go in before 9 or you go in after 2. Now, what we learned is that when we came out a little after 2 one day, after using our timed entry, the lines were really long. I mean, I'm talking a mile at least. And they only had like 2 gates open, so I'm sure it wasn't moving very fast. So my suggestion would be, you're probably better off getting up and get moving and get in there before 9, and I would even try maybe a little bit before 8 to be safe, to get ahead of the crowd, or maybe go in like at 3. I think you may be better, but it's totally doable. I mean, I think it took, I don't know, an hour of slow cruising and pulling off to get up to the Alpine Center, and then you get up there and there's a nice overlook, the visitor center, of course. There's a restaurant and shops up there, restrooms, and then we turned back around. Now, you could continue going on and you go through Rocky Mountain National Park and you come out on the other side. We did not do that. And I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure it's going to be more of the same beautiful scenery, but we just did not have the time to do that.
So some kudos to the Rocky Mountain National Park and their social media and kind of updating, because while it was raining in Estes Park, because we were at a little bit lower elevation, it was of course snowing up in the national park itself, especially at the higher elevations. But we were able to know whether or not the road was going to be open or closed based on the updates we were getting from the National Park Service.
Yeah, and they update the National Park. If you have the National Park Service app, they're always going to have the notices on there, and then we started following them on social media as well. So that's definitely a recommendation for any national park that you go into. Have that National Park app. Go to that app and you can learn all sorts of stuff just by reviewing those. And any trail closures, road closures, which in this instance happened. They closed Trail Ridge Road for part of the time that we were there. So,
but the good news about that, or the good part about that, is because it was still kind of the shoulder season and the whole park wasn't filled with snow. They allowed you to go up to a certain level, so they'll even tell you how far you can go on the road before it shuts down. So it's not like the whole road has to shut down. If the higher elevations are getting some snow, they'll shut that part down, and you're able to drive up to it. And that's what we were able to do. We were able to drive to where the road was closed, but it was already snow on the ground, and we just kind of continued walking up the road a little bit and got some great views of the snow.
Definitely beautiful.
All right, there you go. Episode 24 is in the books of Reimer on the Road, Rocky Mountain National Park. And we're going to get to a couple of things within the park and also our campground. But I want to begin by talking about Estes Park, which is where our campground was and which is right outside of the national park. To me, one of the best parts of this area, a great town.
It was it was a perfect gateway city to the national park. It offered restaurants, walkability, had lots of stores, shopping. And then, elk. It had a lot of elk. You kind of walking around. We saw some in our campground. And just friendly people, great restaurants. And the bonus is that you are, within 5 minutes, we were in the park.
Yeah, it's not often that we've run into. Maybe Bar Harbor is maybe the exception of that, and Acadia, where a great town or a great city is located within just minutes of being into the park. So I definitely highly recommend Estes Park if you're coming out here. In terms of the national park itself, we saw it, and I think one of the coolest times of year because the leaves were changing, vibrant colors, and then when you got far enough north, that day it rained in Estes Park, it was snow up top. Kind of the perfect storm, and it was crowded, which I think was part of the reason because it was that fall season, and also the potential for snow.
Right, and it was also the elk rut.
That's right.
And I think that brings a lot of people there as well. But the fall colors, I will say, I've said it before, I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but I have to say, I like our Appalachian fall colors. I think they're much more vibrant, more colorful. There were lots of yellows here, so it was a lot of yellows and greens, a few spatterings of orange, but it just didn't have, to me, it's not like the East Coast and all of our different hardwood trees and just have all these different beautiful colors. It was still beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I am having to compare it to that. I'm glad that we kind of sort of stumbled upon it being the fall time when we hit that area because it was beautiful.
Yeah, and the evergreens here on the West Coast are much different than we see in the Appalachian Mountains because almost everything in Appalachia goes and goes dormant in the winter. But here you've got the evergreens, and so that creates a little bit of a different dynamic.
And then you got
there.
the tundra. Well, there wasn't a lot of color there, but to me, it was a different beautiful because you had the browns in there. And then, of course, we got the bonus with the snow to give it just an extra little pop.
You mentioned animals, and I think we can speak to Manor RV Park because it was in Estes Park, right in the middle of where we want to be. Within 5 minutes, we could be inside of the national park. And we had plenty of animals, not only in Rocky Mountain National Park, but we had it in our campground.
In our campground. I think we saw elk, deer, and turkey. So, I mean, literally just walk in the back. I mean, it was kind of cool. You did have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings just before you popped out and make sure there wasn't like a bull elk standing right at your doorstep. But and I think they even told us the story the day before, or maybe it was the morning we came. There had been a bear in the park as well, in the RV park.
RV park, not the national park.
Not the national park, in the RV. No, we never saw that bear. If you want to see animals, it actually ended up being a pretty good spot for spotting animals.
And this area also offers, as you saw, as when Megan came with us, some diversions. You've got, within about an hour or so, you've got Boulder, Colorado, Golden, Colorado. We went to Red Rocks. And of course, Denver is about an hour and a half or so. The airport or so is about an hour and a half away. So there are other things to do outside of the Rocky Mountains if you come out to this way. So I think it's a really neat place that has a lot of different things you could do, both inside the national park and in Estes, but also down in the Denver area. So I definitely enjoyed our time here. I think the Rocky Mountains are a truly amazing and unique place. And we talked about it when we were driving here. It just amazes us that people did this in wagons and horses.
As we're coming along, in our Ford F-350 with air conditioning and heated seats if we needed that. It's just, yeah, there's a lot of nothingness. It's beautiful nothingness, but there's a lot of land out there to cross. So yes, kudos to those pioneers who made it out before us.
Amazing, quite frankly.
Yeah.
All right, so we're headed to Idaho. Drop your comments in on that. Follow Reimer on the Road on Instagram because Ann will keep you updated ahead of everything else that we do with the YouTube videos. And of course, we appreciate any feedback that you may have for us. That's episode 24. It is a wrap. Thanks for following along. And don't forget, folks, it's Reimer on the Road. Do it today.